Hello, Mysterious Labyrinth, David. Yeah. I just thought I'd read out a short poem, and I might have some commentaries actually afterwards. So I wrote a small poem today. Let's see if I can find it here. I called this poem Plunging Through. A broken heart, soul-ripping feeling tied to the past. Shake loose the noose, pulling me apart. What is gone is still here. A shadow bridging time's illusion, strapped to the mast and plunging ship's anchor, sinking deep through the vast worlds of vision. Don't let the past be forever my prison. So that's it, that's the little poem there. And, usually poems should speak for themselves, or that you may already have gleaned something of what I'm trying to say from that concoction of words there. That it's about how the past can haunt you. And this is one of my great sufferings every day. I've had a very unusual life, I would say, compared to many. I've never met anyone else who can put together that combination anyway, but that combination of experiences, as everybody has a unique life, but a lot of lives are more steered than others. I've never been a conformist. I've never fitted into the system that those who are content with that, or a willing part of the system, often expect others to comply and behave in the same fashion. It's a strange case of Stockholm syndrome or something. We live in a very challenging world today, and there's always been great challenges, as far as I can tell, in this world. The biggest challenges of all are surviving this system and Agenda 21, and understanding the system and the shadow government, the hidden hand, understanding the methods of control, that in the mandatory schooling system, forced indoctrination, they don't tell you about Freemasonry and its many fronts, many different faces. So they don't actually teach you how the system works. They just teach you usually what they want you to know, so as to be an efficient slave to the system. And the system, doesn't personally know you or know me. We're just a number on a bit of paper, a human resource, unit umpteen. In the grand scheme of things, but it's their scheme, their grand chessboard. Which is the title of Zbigniew Brzezinski's book, one of his books. If you want to look into the mindset of a psychopathic, geopolitical, trilateral commission member lunatic, warmongering loony. Also how you get to see how a little hint, and you can get hints here and there, of how we as the human population, the general population of the planet, are set up against each other in so many different ways. Religions are used to set us up against each other. Politics pantomime is also used in so many different ways to confuse us, to lie to us. Strange how people still go back voting, even after having been lied to time and time again. But what I was talking about, well, those are just sort of things that come to my mind. But what I'm talking about is also having to deal with people who see freedom almost as a challenge. And I have a metaphor for that. Let me turn off this beeping sound. The expectation that they have for you to behave, let's say, in a politically correct manner, a directive that expects a certain type of behaviour from you, a certain type of thought pattern. So I visited some people. I was invited to hang out and play the guitar a bit, and there was a guy there I hadn't met before, and he he was just sitting there, and the other guys were in the kitchen, and there's this bird in a cage, but the door is open, and it's a canary bird or something, cockatoo or canary. I think it was a canary bird, a little yellow canary or something. Anyway, so the windows cleverly, just you can have them a little bit open, but the bird still can't get out. So they just let the bird fly around in the room, and this guy was terrified of the bird. The bird was flapping around, and I was quite happy to see the bird, and that it got to move around a bit more rather than just sitting in the cage all the time. The cage, the prison. It made me happy, and it made him absolutely terrified. So I asked him, I said, well, I'm looking at you, and I can see that the activity of this bird is disturbing for you. And he says, yeah. I said, may I ask you, what is there anything you can pinpoint or something you could say as to why you should find this bird so disturbing? And then you could see the cogs churning, or hear the cogs churning, as he was thinking about how to reply, and he came up with one word, and he says, yeah, it's unpredictable. In Norwegian, uforutsigbar. Unpredictable, he said. And it struck me as this is the perfect metaphor for what I'm trying to say. It was disturbing for him to see the bird free from that cage, because he could see that he wasn't free from his own cage. And the system wants predictable people, and the bird was unpredictable for him. Do you see what I'm saying? As for the ghosts of the past that haunt us, almost makes time an illusion, really, because things we've experienced we carry with us today. And at the same time, we have to deal with the now time, with whatever is going on at that moment. But certain things may jog your memory to the past. You may hear a tune that jogs your memory of times when that tune was being played on the radio. It's very common for people to, when they hear that tune, and they may remember the times they had when they were hearing that tune, you know, like an 80s song or whatever it would be. And you know how something can strike a chord in you. So what an amazing expression. Oh, that struck a chord in me. And that's it, it's that feeling in your heart, in your gut, in your whole being, in your head, of course, in your thoughts. It's all connected, or it hopefully is. And something that strikes a chord in you. So you play an E minor. Sounds melancholy. That's a chord. That's a melancholy chord. And then you change one note in that chord. It's happier. It's not as sad. Depending on how you play, it could be a bit sad too. But so I mean, you know, if I'm playing. So something that strikes a chord in you, that's what it feels like. Post-traumatic stress disorder. It's like a bad chord being struck in me from the past, from experiences I've had, that I'm having a really hard time shaking loose. So it troubles me every day, and it's often the same things that repeat themselves, you know, like I have to think to try and find the words for this. So I don't get along very well with people. In fact, I don't really get along with... There's a couple of people I get along with fine on the net. I mean, there are actually people I've had no problem with, but I find people either get angry or pissed off, or because I don't assimilate to their way of being. They expect you to conform. And I have had lots of different cultural influences, you know, gypsy music, Roma, Romani music, flamenco mostly, and Eastern European Roma music. I listen to a lot of different traditional music, and you know, Eastern music and native indigenous pop music from different places in the world that I feel has it's less plastic and more human, you know, than this world of plastic that's been made today. It's very dehumanizing. The system is dehumanizing. I would like to see freedom for us all out of it, but if only all of us would want to use the solutions that have already been there, you know, like I can easily see a barter system being set up that removes money altogether. You wouldn't need money because you swap your 3 eggs for however many spuds, whatever one decides it is. You're cutting out the middleman, which is money. Because money is a cunning control system, isn't it? It's a certain group of people or a man coming with a system, but he's coming in between our transaction. You know, if you want my spuds and I want your eggs, he's conned us into using that money to swap our spuds for our eggs or whatever, or maybe you just want to buy the spuds now, and I can just go and buy some chilies, whatever, you know. It has its pluses and its minuses, I suppose, but for me, overall, it has its minuses. I'm just, instead of complaining about the system, there are already it's so easy to set up a barter system with the technology we have today. And the bankers can go and live in the mansions or whatever it is they live in these days. Anyway, they've already got their mansions, haven't they? So, when are we going to stop feeding this beast that has already declared that it wants to reduce the population? Agenda 21, please do your homework and don't just look at the cover story or the first 40 pages. It goes a lot deeper than that. And a conspiracy theory, how ridiculous. Conspiracy fact, in fact, as the vast majority of nations around this planet, I think it was 178 nations in 1992, sold out to Agenda 21. There was no voting process, no nothing. And this is being implemented with a sustainable development and all of this. It's such a massive agenda that includes every aspect of our lives, and it's so controlling. One of the reasons I started trying to speak up, I'm not a trained speaker or anything, but that's one of the many reasons that vaccines, many other issues, genetically modified food. If you believe the cover story, sorry, you've been fooled. You need to look a bit deeper. So, not to mention the cobalt-60 that they irradiate our food with. And they irradiate us with it sometimes too. They try to pass it off as medicine. Ghosts from the past. For me, is so directly related to deep, deep depressions and the loneliness and suffering and torture and violence and death threats and so many all the time. We've even been targeted in special ways I won't go into now. And I started trying to speak up. I attracted more attention than the powers that are. I don't want to have people like me who question anything, who manage to attract attention to, away from their podium, where they have their club members speaking, who all support the same agenda. They're all pumping out different lies and supporting the agenda, but it's that pain inside, that pain inside from your experiences from the past. Many people, they go to a psychiatrist and get pills to try and dull the pain, and then they end up becoming slaves to Big Pharma. Often will just turn you into a vegetable anyway, something similar. Looking into the history of Big Pharma, psychiatry, psychology, behaviorism, behavior modification. Joseph Mengele, trauma-based mind control, morphing into MK Ultra. Just mentioning a few key research points there, throwing those in there. MK Ultra, mind control programs. They claimed that they stopped that program, but it continued, in fact, in other forms. And there were different levels of it. But the origins of psychiatry. If you look at the history of psychiatry, how can you not fail to see that that's just another control mechanism? And now we have a more advanced control mechanism to deal with, but the ghosts from the past. If you can tackle those ghosts from the past in some way yourself, maybe you'll find a better solution than I have, because, well, the only solution I have is singing and playing my guitar, playing music, to express those sad feelings and that twisted feeling I have inside of me from what I've experienced. That's the only positive thing I know of, that where I can, it's like an escape valve for the suffering. And my heart goes, the reason I'm talking about these things is because my heart goes out to those, to anybody really, who recognises hopefully something in what I'm trying to describe here. That I picked up the guitar a little bit today, but I haven't played for a long time. I've had a broken thumb and a lot of different accidents. There's been a lot of violence recently. I've been attacked several times recently. But now my thumb seems to be mending, so I can go back to being melancholy on my guitar. I'm not always sad. I do have happy moments. I can't get on with my family. It's too crazy. My daughter doesn't want to know me. Been targeted by special operations. I've been shot at. I was beaten at school. Really bad, really heavy beating. Already at 6.5 years old, I was beaten so badly I couldn't sit down for days. After that, I was black and blue from the neck down to the arse. That's what they do to 6.5-year-olds in the schooling system that just happened to stare out the window. Didn't find her teaching terribly inspiring. So I gazed out of the window. Miss Dibben. What was it called? Rains Park Junior? Or something like that. Rains Park School, Primary School or something. I don't know what they call it today. I did try finding Miss Dibben on the net because I was feeling revengeful. Terrible feelings of revenge, you see, because that relates to ghosts from the past. It wrenches you inside. Got feelings of revenge for a couple of brothers who gave me a really bad beating once when I was too drunk to defend myself. Not that I had done anything wrong. I wasn't that drunk, but they were big lads, and anyway, that's a long story. I mean, it's like the one that once I had this guy with a stocking over his head coming in through the window. That was interesting. He put his hand in his pocket. I wasn't taking any chances. One day I'll be making maybe a video or a book about so many stories I have from my life. I've been playing the guitar from the gutter to some of the richest men's houses in the world. And just about everything in between. I prefer playing like small coffee places and private, like small arrangements and stuff, because it's more intimate. You get closer contact with your audience. I don't, big stages. I've played some bigger ones, but yeah. Not that many big ones. I try to stick to the small ones. Not sure if they would want me on a big one anyway, because I don't play plastic. Hopefully not. So yeah. express your feelings, and we don't have to be slaves. And there are solutions. I'm just giving some hints. It's a spontaneous rant. So, sorry if it came out a bit wonky, but I started all that internet radio stuff about 8 years ago, and trying to speak out about different stuff, because I want to see freedom on this planet, and looking at the history of colonialism, of the Americas, of Australia, other places, many other places, where the same techniques, more or less, in different combinations, but the same techniques, often in the same combinations, interestingly enough, have been used everywhere to oppress and kill off the already existing indigenous populations, to usurp their lands and take their territory by force. And then you have those who are allowed to remain are either assimilated by force and expected to assimilate to the system that has basically they had already had what they needed. Without, they were doing obviously fine for many thousands, many, who knows how long, really, 60,000 years, probably longer. They were doing very well without that system. And there's a wonderful video of this original Australian man, and he says something about that before the West came with its system of money, we had no words, no word for thank you or please. Nobody had to beg for anything, because it was taken for granted that you would share the catch. It was a natural way of cooperating together to survive. And they didn't need words like please and thank you. It was a joy to share and care. Sometimes I wish I had somebody to share and care with, but I wouldn't expect. I don't think I could ever get along with anyone anymore. I'm too compromised. Just screwed up. So I have to isolate myself basically from most people. I'm not the kind of person who's going to pretend to be something I'm not. So one often pays the price for that, depending on the kind of situation you're in. I looked around the world. I looked at the world map. I thought, there are some beautiful people, beautiful cultures out there, and the most beautiful people and cultures are the ones who have been most targeted. And I can't even get through to people today because they just talk to their phones. Met a guy, hadn't seen him for years, sat in my place for a couple of hours talking to his phone. Yeah, no, and then he went away. Nice to see you. Not. See, because you're not there anymore. You're not there anymore. See, because the technology has taken you. And at the moment it's got me too. As I sit here in front of this screen. Won't be sitting here for much longer though, because I've been thrown out. And I've done nothing wrong, and in fact, except for I lost my cool a couple of times for a very good reason. I've got exactly 2 weeks, I think, to remove myself from these premises. And it's like I'm having a nervous breakdown every day. Because, if I managed to find where to move to, that would be nice. We'll see. Time is short, so the chances of me ending up in a tent, we'll see. Luckily I do have a tent, but it's cold. Winters here in Norway are really cold, or can be really cold. I'm just talking about, just mentioning different stuff. I mean, I did have some good times years ago. I was very adventurous and had some very interesting experiences in my life as well. I tried to remind myself of those things, try and strengthen that in the memory, but these other things, too many bad things, and it's like it can weigh down on you. So, I'd just like to put that out there that, message me or whatever, leave a message if you want to talk about freedom from our own pain, and freedom also from the system. Because are you really free?